The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, must be arrested for contempt of court. It should be Trump being arrested for contempt of court, potentially for ignoring the orders of the Supreme Court. We already know how the laws of this land have already Salvador. Trump wanted to by the Supreme Court he would bring Mr. Garcia back, which necessarily means he has to bring him back. So when these lawyers simply said that same thing again, no chance in El Salvador now. Only they said it louder on Saturday. They looked like championship idiots. Well, Trump wasn't going to make that last. even though this real-life version of Kafka's trial was a month ago. Saturday, March 12th. Bastards almost
China candidate. How crucial is this rescue issue in this upcoming midterm election?
Not before. This has been going on for a month. A real-life version of Kafka's The Trial, which the defendant is never told what he's charged with. So did they? What do you think you are going to be able to do about it, America? What do you think you are going to be able to do about it, Nicole Mischeroni? Do you know who Nicole Mischeroni is? She is another potential victim of what Trump's worms will doubtless call an administrative error. In the middle of the night, his following email from a no-reply address at Homeland Security.
Move on. And CEO of some companies.
You are currently here because they talked about Homeland Security
finance portfolio, and you can have their other portfolios apart from the defense job.
The defense job.
Or just the federal courts or the district courts. What do you think you are going to be able to do about it, Mrs. Abrego? Not only are they rounding up people who are guilty or might be guilty, they may just round up people who could not possibly be guilty.
Theory
like
that,
Nicole Mischeroni of the Newton Mischeronis.
China has an advantage.
Or Keith Olbermann of the Bronx Olbermanns.
At massive scale, low
Or
cost,
you.
certain goods, a lot of goods.
Or as it turns
US,
out,
on the other hand,
thousands
they're very good
of
at
native-born
design,
Americans
at
and
providing
naturalized
services,
U.S. citizens
intellectual
born
services.
in other places and green
that's
card
why-
holders and people under the protection of the government as ordered in the courts, because sending them like Teodoro Garcia to a place like El Salvador and or will get them killed. Thousands and thousands of administrative errors, thousands of conceivably, maybe even likely, intentional errors to scare them, scare you. Don't make waves. Be like the television networks, be like the law firms, be like Columbia University. To borrow the bully speak of the terrorists.
They are essentially appalling.
Accidentally sent to El Salvador because your neighbor was next to some actual target. You would want to go to a rally or a protest, your photo could wind up next to that of Mahmoud Khalil.
You find that when your dog translated,
Arrest Tom Homan and Kristi Noem for contempt of court today. Maybe we will get lucky and their prison stay will get sucked into the... the name Mahmoud Khalil, and if he does not sound familiar to you, Mahmoud Khalil can be removed from the United States, even though he has broken no laws. And the entirety of the case against him is that little shit Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, who embellished a story about his own father as a political refugee from Cuba, and a two-page memo that he promulgated, a two-page memo that is worthy of the Tom Cruise movie Minority Report, in which you can be arrested for pre-crimes, in which they calculate you're going to do something bad, so they're going to arrest you now. A two-page memo in which Rubio confirmed Khalil's pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University were, quote, otherwise lawful, but insisted that letting him stay here, as outlined by, the laws, would undermine, quote, U.S. policy to combat anti-Semitism around the world and in the United States, in addition to efforts to protect Jewish students from harassment and violence in the United States, condoning anti-Semitic conduct and disruptive protest in the United States would severely undermine that significant foreign policy objective. I got bad news for you, Marco. By that standard, by the anti-Semitism standard, Trump, whose own wife said he kept a book of Hitler's speeches on a bedside table in their home. Trump needs to be expelled as a dangerous anti-Semite before nightfall. Trump only wants to deport her, not Zapatero. I no longer think. And the Secretary of Defense and Vodka, absolutely plausible they just screwed this up, under whose right the Pentagon has thrown out Toni Morrison's absolutely plausible they screwed up the Naval Academy. Well, they got Elon Musk working for them, the Hegseth Naval Academy brain-damaged bully Tom Holmes they have there of Mein Kampf, and Christy Noem, who by now has the same identical molecular composition as an inflatable backyard swimming pool.
Cabinet.
Or
What are your thoughts on
these are mistakes made on purpose. Doesn't matter. Either way, they want to leave you with the impression that not only are they rounding up a few actual criminals, along with thousands of people whose only crime was the mistaken belief that even Ted Bundy Trump's America was a good place, a better place, a place worth risking your life to get to. You know, what our ancestors thought.
The Chinese economy, the development of the Sino-US trade relationships, it's rational in the sense that it describes China's position as the largest developing nation. Its economy is growing. It's rational because it talks about trade as a fundamental economic principle is mutually beneficial to both countries. It's also reasonable in the sense that the white paper also says it's natural that there are differences in terms of how different sides interpret the trade relationships. And finally, it's very reasonable because it says China is obviously open for dialogues, and only through dialogues these disputes can be resolved, not through one-sided irrational moves. So overall, that would be my impression about the white paper. Sure. So this is another good point, a very important point, and these are facts that both sides also. And as
now
being
that could
discussed,
have serious implications both for the dollar's status as
Secretary Tudoro, 18-year-old. Experience. I mean, we were the same secretary twice. Once during the time of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and now with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. How different are the
State also probably will serve less concerned eye-openers for President Marcos.
And Elon Musk, and instead of 1 hour in the cleanest holding cell in Washington, D.C., they'll get disappeared to the Panama Canal. Oh, I'm sorry, Christy.
China are very profitable. Coca-Cola, you name it. Everything you get in your bathroom is coming from an American company. And they don't want to,
responsible nations with global interests.
Cards are on the table. Yet he's trying to convince everybody that he is for races, and he doesn't. And his Achilles heel here is everyone keeps talking about what's happening to these countries, right? They talk, well, this is going to be terrible for my country. Well, it's going to be much worse for the U.S. Take a look at the stock markets. You start looking at the comparatives here, and it's very clear that the American public are.
He wants certain industries to go back to the U.S. He wants to shrink deficit with some countries in certain products and so on. But the problem now, and I also agree, his strategy seems to throw away all existing rules and start over. And when you start over bilateral.
Going to suffer. They suffer. They're going to speak out. They speak out.
Our president is much friendships. Sorry,
Exist because it's a position to speak. It's not easy to describe a position.
job. President Marcos, my mother, I was the barangay. I've known the president since we were young, and the trust and confidence we have in each other is quite great. No other factor.
You ran for president, Secretary Teodoro, in 2010. What's the feeling when it was unsuccessful?
Well, of course you get disappointed, but then you have to move
Just in the 1990s, you said something along the lines of, if I'm ever going to be reincarnated as the bond market, because the bond market has never died. status as a global reserve currency, and what will the attitude of the